Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to this wonderful musical concert that we're going to have, followed by some presentations from the people from Ukraine, and then there'll be all those who want to donate or whatever. There's be things out in the front. I do want to give you a couple announcements. Please, cell phones, if you would silence them or turn them off. Second, there are restrooms right out in the narthex, and there's additional restrooms on the second floor to the left for those who need to go. The third thing is, some of you probably haven't been here before, so I'd like to show you the fire exits over here, over there, which will go out onto Main Street. This will go onto Grange Street, and most of you came in the front entrance, that parking lot. We don't anticipate any fire alarms or anything like that, but just in case. If you parked in the parking lot here and the fire alarms do go off, please exit and go away over to the building next door in case the fire trucks would have to come back here. Other than that, enjoy the concert. We've been waiting a long time for this. Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Connie Squire. I'm the pastor here at Vincentown United Methodist Church, and I would also like to welcome you all and say how appreciative we are that you came out to support Ukraine this day and hopefully in the future. I would like to thank Ilya, wherever, I don't know. There, in the back, okay. Ilya and his wife, Heather. For coming and hopefully being able to inform us a little bit of what's going on now and what we can do maybe in the future. The Ukraine Trust Chain is a very special organization. People selflessly serving their country and their people, and they do so very much, especially with all the terrible danger that they have to confront each and every day. So know that they are in our prayers. We are pleased to be able to help in any way that we can, and one of the ways is through this concert that Myra Sparks and Betty Meseral are going to be playing beautifully, I'm sure. So, be able to enjoy that. And along with whatever donations you make, as Russ had said, we have things that are out there that you can make donations towards. That will also, everything today will go to the trust chain. So if you're able to, please be very gracious and in your giving and be able to enjoy the things that are out there that people are willing to let go of so that we can get this support for them. So without any further ado, let us begin with our concert.
It's so wonderful to look out, Jane, hi, over this crowd and see people that I love so much and people that I don't even know have come today. So thank you very, very much. But let's take a minute to let Myra and Betty know how much we love their music right now. And let's be grateful that there's a second half. When Myra first told me about her idea, she said that she knew it was from the Lord because it would not let her go. She didn't know that I had been praying about an idea to have an arts and craft fundraiser for Ukraine, Trust Chain, for over a year. And that idea wouldn't let me go either. So today, the dream of ours is becoming a reality. Today, we all get a chance to let the war-torn people of Ukraine know that we care about them and want to help. Every penny donated today donated today and given through using our talents in music, artwork, crafting projects, donations of antiques and personal treasures that we are now willing to give up for sale to help those in Ukraine who need food, water, shelter, health aid, firewood, stoves, windows, roofs, and they need evacuation from areas that are being bombed by the enemy. And all of this will go to an organization, a very special organization called Ukraine Trust Chain. Ilya is going to tell you a lot more about that. But for now, let us give generously to show how much we care. Would the ushers please come forward at this time? I think I'm going to let that go to the station, but let me pray over it, okay? It's in the back, and we have to, do stuff with this so that we know stuff by the end of the day. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are able to gather us together today and feel the needs of these oppressed people. We thank you that you have blessed us with so much that we can share with others who need it more. Take this offering and send it to Ukraine and use it where it is needed most. We ask all of this in Jesus' precious and powerful name. Amen. Okay. And now, let the music roll and fill our souls with peace and love for others.
What a heartfelt song to close out this concert with. And please join me in thanking Betty and Myra again for their beautiful gift of music. And thank you to everyone here for your generous support of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. God bless you all. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Ilya Niznik. Ilya is from Kyiv, Ukraine, and he is one of the founders and volunteers for Ukraine Trust Chain. So please give a warm welcome, Mr. Ilya.
Thank you. I want to thank so much everyone for coming here. I thank all the organizers. This means so much to me, and this means so much to the people of Ukraine, that people here in America still remember, they still feel, they know what's going on, and they feel it in their hearts, and that they want to help. I want to start off by reading a very brief passage from a report that we got from one of our teams recently, and I didn't realize this the first time I read it in the original Ukrainian, but once translated, it is almost poetic, even if depressingly so. In the city, drones never sleep, painting the night with bursts of terror. Darkness swallows the streets, save for the glimmer of banks on the other side, a cruel reminder of divided approaches. The Ukrainian army does not shell civilian homes. Water, a lifeline, runs dry. Attempts to dig wells are met with enemy gunfire, leaving people reliant on whatever they can bring in. Delays plague our efforts, but when evening descends, we move unseen. In the shadows, locals lend a hand, swiftly unloading firewood. It's a quiet dance, but essential for those in need. The warmth of firewood, the flicker of candles, the promise of aid, those are the sparks of hope in the darkness. This was sent to us a few days ago from one of the teams working near the front lines. Jim, if you could cue up the second video. So a lot of organizations can't say exactly how they came together or founded. Ukraine Trust Chain was founded, came together on the night of the invasion, which was in a week is going to be exactly 2 years ago. The war has been going for 2 years. On the night of the invasion, a friend of a friend is expecting baby through a surrogate in Ukraine. And the surrogate went into preterm labor right as the Russians were bombing the capital city. She couldn't get to the hospital, but once she got there, they didn't have some of the right medicines that they were expecting to be delivered because everything was shut down. A group of friends reached out to other friends, and very quickly, hundreds of contacts were made to see who could possibly reach these infants that were being born that needed preemie formula, that needed all sorts of medicine. And an unbelievable number of people stepped in. One of the first was Natalia. She was a realtor herself. She had at the time, 16-year-old daughter, and she was offered to selflessly drive around the city to different pharmacies while bombs were falling to find medicine for these kids that she's never met, for a person she's never met, knowing that they're probably not going to live in that country, that they're born for a surrogate family. And she selflessly did it, and staying on the phone as you hear the sound of gunfire in the background. This was one of the first connections for Ukraine Trust Chain. Then, through another Chicago connection, we heard about someone who was trying to help evacuate an orphanage. And the response was, and the initial response of everyone was shock and helplessness. And what can we do? You know, all the big agencies should be doing something. How can we evacuate an orphanage with just a few friends that know each other? Like, well, no, he told us, I can find the cars. I'll get the vans together. I know a friend who has a bus. All we need is money for fuel, some supplies, and we'll go overnight and we'll get these kids out at night before the Russians take over the area. And he sent them a few $100s, not thinking that what's the worst that can happen? We'll give money to some Ukrainians. And by morning, we get the report of the video of smiling kids getting off the bus. We suddenly helped evacuate an orphanage. Before long, a few other connections were made. And a week after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we suddenly had 6 teams and over 100 volunteers that were in different parts of Ukraine doing work, helping others. Some were evacuating people, some were delivering supplies, some were helping hospitals, and it kind of grew from there. In another week, we filed paperwork to official 501c3 nonprofit, and we never stopped. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Ukraine Trust Chain has evacuated 59,384 people out of harm's way from war zones in Ukraine. We've helped to feed, at this point, the number is close to 4 million people. We've rebuilt over 1,000 homes, nearly a dozen schools and hospitals. We have delivered over 700 generators last year. Some of these numbers kind of seem mind-boggling, and that this is something that's done with completely grassroots. And how does this all happen? In a way, you could say Ukraine Trust Chain wasn't founded 2 years ago. In some ways, one of the first connections was actually made 30 years ago in a school in Kiev. When I sat at a desk next to Daniil, you saw him in the video. He's currently in Chicago, and he's an executive at Zillow, and we reconnected at the beginning of the war. And we have been running this organization with the help of friends and volunteers together every day since then. At first, we sent our own money, thinking that if this was failing, I couldn't ask somebody else to send $500 or $1,000, but I knew some of these people in Ukraine, so did he, so we sent our own money. Then when we saw the results, we asked for our friends, and our friends asked for their friends. And before you know it, hundreds and then thousands of people responded. We have been tremendously lucky to continue seeing that response. And thousands of people have donated, and this money goes directly to Ukraine. We don't have an office here. There is one P.O. box in Chicago that's on that donation list, and that is the entirety of our expense. The organization, despite all the financial complexities, logistics, runs entirely virtually. We have a number of volunteers here in the U.S. that help with fundraising, that help manage the organizations. And as the video said, it's closer to just over 900 people in Ukraine that do this work every single day. Some of the teams specialize in rebuilding homes. They go into villages that have been destroyed, and they find the people who are in most need, the families who can't stay, but also in their current home because it's falling apart, because a bomb hit the roof, because there's damage by shrapnel, but also they have no place to go. They help them rebuild their homes. And then when a certain number of homes are rebuilt, people want to move back to the village. It's the importance of restoring. It's not just about helping the one person. It's about stabilizing the area. There's other teams that deliver medicine. There's other teams that deliver water. That after the major flood in Kherson that was caused by the Russians blowing up the dam, it flooded multiple cities and affected millions of people. Our teams responded very quickly. Just in that first week, we delivered I believe the number is somewhere about 150 tons of water. The Red Cross sent a fundraising email to give them money because they delivered 30. There are a lot of amazing organizations doing work in Ukraine. The ones that are generally on the ground, you typically don't hear about. Our teams, there's 20 of them now, are all their own nonprofits on the ground in Ukraine. They started as a few people, as volunteers, but as resources from the US came, they helped them do more work, and they could help tens and then hundreds and then thousands of people on the ground. A lot of people may ask, well, why haven't you heard of us? So why is this organization? We don't have a PR budget. Our work has been reported in the press. We have been on NPR at the beginning of the war. There's a really wonderful piece on one of our teams. The Philadelphia Inquirer, for the last 2 years in a row, strongly recommended Ukraine Trust Chain as the most effective charity in Ukraine if you want on-the-ground impact. So by their foreign columnist Trudy Rubin, so both last year and this December. We've been in a number of other publications, but we're not here to seek press. I am a somewhat reluctant leader and speaker. This is not what I intended to do. This is not what I wanted to do. I have a busy life and a family and a wonderful, very patient wife who's in the back there. But it's something that I have to do. I have to be here to speak up for those that can't, to speak up for those that live in Ukraine who are still under fire every single day. The situation in many parts of the country has improved, but in other parts it's gotten worse. The Russians are targeting civilian infrastructure, and they're destroying large cities and bombing, and trying to destroy the power supplies, the logistics runs. And so a lot of what we do is we focus on the areas where the other organizations don't go. That's why firewood is such a major thing this winter. We deliver firewood by the tractor trailer load. Every single week, multiple tractor trailers of firewood go out from central Ukraine to points near the south, to points near the east. Now, why would you, it seems like a very strange combination. You use something very large and modern like a tractor trailer to deliver firewood. For one is that people in the cities will not freeze. As bad as it is, in some of them, there are shelters. There's places where there's electricity, there's places where there's some shelters. People in a lot of the smaller towns that have a chimney, that have a stove that can burn firewood, they're not going to get those deliveries very often. And the reason that deliveries have to be so big is there's usually a pretty small window when you can safely go. With drones being used very heavily on both sides, especially recently, as you heard in the report, they're targeting all aid deliveries. So it's more than once happened that our teams reported that, well, we got through fine, but we saw a Russian drone and they were following us, and we had to lose them before they blew up the truck. Unfortunately, that's the reality near the front. So when I say that I'm asking people to help and connect with these teams, who are these teams? Like, what are these people? These are people who were not, they weren't professionals in this. They're just regular Ukrainians. The team leaders are disproportionately women, or there are people who are not able to fight because most of the men are fighting. Some of them are realtors, because one of our first connections is a realtor. One is a priest in the Orthodox Church. One's a former administrator. Another is an aspiring rapper. Another is a tattoo artist. One is a florist who lost her flower shop at the beginning of the war. These people all heard a call. They heard a call to help others, and we've been able to provide the resources for them to do that. This work takes a toll on people, not on us. We're here, we're safe, but it's hard for the volunteers. They're on the ground, and not only are they in direct danger, but they're helping a lot of people who are in worse danger. And they know that what happens, well, this delivery is dangerous, but if this delivery doesn't make it, what happens to these people? What's left for them? We do not operate on the border. We do not operate in large cities where there is restored infrastructure, where the Red Cross is, where UNICEF is, where other agencies go. Our teams specifically go where the large international organizations will not. That doesn't mean that they never go there. It just means that they're not doing enough. We focus on efforts that yield the most possible benefit for the lowest investment. Sometimes this means delivering firewood, sometimes this means medicine, and sometimes this means evacuating people or their pets. We have the exact count of people. I can tell you that it's probably been not quite that many pets, but thousands. There's one particular evacuation. I think from eastern Ukraine. There's a mom. She had an 8-year-old autistic boy, and she absolutely refused to leave the danger zone unless somebody took her animals, which normally would not be a problem. She had 14 cats and 2 dogs. We did find someone with a van to take the 14 cats and 2 dogs and the mom and her son. Unfortunately, they ran out of crates, so some of them were very loosely secured. It was a very bumpy van ride, and a bunch of the animals did get loose. So this is one that the driver said that he's never working with more than 1 dog again, but they all made it to safety, and the van needed a lot of cleanup. But this is the positive story. Like this is what you hope happens at the end of a long route. Sometimes it doesn't work out so positively. We have been relatively lucky that statistically, out of a really large number of volunteers, almost everyone's escaped major injury. There is one case, a young man, more than a decade younger than me. He was delivering in eastern Ukraine near Kharkiv, which was pre-war city, about 2 million people. It's a large, wealthy city, industrial. And it was so close to the border of Russia that people used to, from Russia, would come into there for dinner in the theater and then drive back home nighttime. He was delivering on an approved route to a small village, and he, at the last stop, the grandma there said that her friend lives 1 mile down the road, and they haven't seen any aid in months, and no one else has checked out that road. And she told her that she thought it was safe, and he couldn't say no. So he went down the road, and he was never seen again. His car hit a Russian mine before he got to the next house. He was 31, and he had 2 young kids. That is not the most common scenario, but unfortunately that is part of the danger that they face all the time. I could stand here all day and talk about their stories and the war and how we came to be here. There's one thing that I want to ask. If you walk away from this and what you do is you put in $10 and you walk away and then you forget about this, that means that nothing that I've said up here will matter. It's not that we don't want the $10. Every cent of those $10, or 100, or 1,000 if you're so disposed, will go directly to help Ukraine. But I want you to remember this. There's a lot of times in history when we've said never again. And at that time, we didn't know exactly what was going on. Maybe some people knew. Now we know. We know civilians are being killed. We know thousands of people are being hurt. We know that a dictator is trying to push his armies across Europe. We know this. We see it. We might turn off the news, but we know it's happening. We know the danger. We know the loss. It's important for us to not forget. That doesn't mean it should be overwhelming, but it shouldn't be forgotten. People ask, well, what separates you from the other organizations? Well, aside from the large scale and zero overhead and how quickly we're able to respond, we report on everything that we do. A lot of organizations send a yearly impact report. We publish a weekly impact report. We had just published our 101st impact report every single week on our website, which I very much encourage everyone to visit, ukrainetrustchain.com. There's a big link for newsletters, and every single newsletter is there. And Lindy has read every single newsletter. I know this because she not only read from when she started looking at us, she asked me where to find the old ones, and I was very excited. So I'm always a little cautious about questions from her because she may know more about what our organization does than I do. Because these newsletters, the way they come together is that every single week, hundreds of volunteers in Ukraine report to their team leaders. And then their team leaders report to their liaisons. I'm a liaison for several teams in Ukraine, one out of Odessa, one out of Kharkiv, one out of Kiev that goes to Lithuania to pick up vehicles that the Lithuanian government confiscates from drug runners, and then they bring those vehicles in along with humanitarian aid. It's a pretty complex network. And I'd love to talk to all of you about it and answer any questions so that you understand what happens. But on that newsletter, please go to our website, put in your email, and sign up for that newsletter. I would rather you sign up for that newsletter and read it than donate money. Unless you're planning on writing that $1,000 check, then we'll talk. But seriously, read the newsletter, read the heroics that these people do. I know that this church prays for the names of a lot of these volunteers, and it's incredibly meaningful. And I've told them this. I was just on a call with one of them, Tatiana, who lives in a small town called Smila. And, there's been a pretty rough week. Their vehicle broke down, and it kind of works, but they can get around in town, but they can't get it to the really far zones where they want to reach and help people. And she didn't want to ask us for all the money for repairs. We just asked her, like, okay, you stopped doing the trips. Is there anything we can do to help? And, we just want to make sure she's okay. And she told us that the vehicle had completely broken down. And I said, well, that shouldn't be a problem. We know we can fund those repairs. And by the way, I'm going to this fundraiser tonight at a church, and I've been told that at this church, people pray for the volunteers every single time. And, she started tearing up that, that this thousands of miles away, the people who have never met her, read her name and then pray for her. That means a lot. This kind of connection means a lot to people. So I want to again say, please, look on our website. See the work for yourselves. Read some of those newsletters. It's, I'm not asking, or if you like, read about us in the Philadelphia Inquirer. I think Trudy Rubin does an excellent job describing some of our work. But don't just give yourselves. There's cards, there's flyers. Take at least one or two of the cards and one or two flyers, and find that one friend of yours that, has a nice retirement home in Florida, or, maybe keeps talking about donor-advised funds. There's always someone. Give the card to them. Let more people know about this, that this work is going on. There's selfless people doing it, and you can help them fund it. And this will create a tremendous impact. Every single dollar given here, by our calculations, it creates about a multiple impact of about 20. When we send aid over there, a lot of times we sponsored a container of medicine, and that container from here was donated here, but nobody could deliver it there, so we delivered it there. The impact was about $750,000 worth of medicine and medical supplies that got there because we spent $5,000 because it was donated from us. Not every single donation and not every single delivery has that much impact, but this is the kind of work that we try to do. These are the resources we have. We try to multiply them as much as we possibly can to help as many as we can. Now, as I mentioned, I could talk forever, but I do really want to give a chance to ask questions, both to the larger audience and then directly. I will be available as long as there's somebody here, and you can ask me questions about the work, about Ukraine, about anything else that you want. So before I want to open up for questions, just one brief thing. I want to thank again so much to all of you, to this beautiful church, to not the least to the beautiful musicians and the beautiful music that played, and all of you for helping us. And don't forget about Ukraine. If you feel so inclined, also tell your federal representatives to not forget about Ukraine. I was just in DC a couple months ago, and they were remembering it a little bit better then. They seem to have forgotten lately, so don't hesitate to give them a call and tell them to not forget about Ukraine. But at this point, please, ask me your questions. I would love to answer all of them.
So we're going to take one or two questions in the room, and then we're going to turn you loose to do all the other stuff that we have. But Brenda's got a microphone. We don't usually have this many people in our congregation, so we want to make sure that you hear the question and then hear the answer. So does somebody have a question they'd like to ask? Somebody does? Raise your hand and we'll bring a mic. Oh, wow. You're shy.
Would you like to start being one of our number one fans?
Well, I don't know. Like, I'm always into the human interest stories. So when